Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth, the Education Coordinator for Marlene's Market and Deli. Tonight's special guest that we have with us, and is always an honor, we have Dr. Glen Depke, Dr. Mercola, Educator and naturopathic doctor, and he is speaking on the topic of age gracefully, healthy cellular meta metabolism, and we are so grateful to have him with us and all of his knowledge tonight. Thank you so much, Dr. Debke.
Oh, you're welcome. It's always a pleasure to do anything with Marlene. So, absolutely. All right, so we're gonna good to go. So today's subject is something that's obviously very near and dear to me because in all sincerity, coming up next year, I'm going to turn 60. So I'm all about aging gracefully and not only having a healthier cellular metabolism, but also what I'm going to really teach today is about three of the key components to age in the best state that you possibly can. And it's interesting with aging. Most everybody thinks of age as a linear thing. You just get older and that's it. Well, I think of aging as a metabolic thing. It's kind of interesting. In my office, I even have a scale that when people stand on it, it measures a lot of different components, like not only just weight, but lean body mass, how much fat, and just pumps out a significant amount of information. And at the end, it gives the person's metabolic age. So the metabolic age is not their linear age. And now, what's interesting, I mean, I can remember this one gentleman who, when he jumped on that scale, he was 42 years old and his metabolic age was like 88. Or I have people who jump on that scale who might be in their 40s or 50s and have a metabolic age of 35. So I really want you to think of age rather than a linear age by an accumulation of years. Think of age as based on the health of your body, comparatively speaking to what somebody of that age could really be. And there's going to be three key components that I'm going to share with you today that are so important in regard to actually aging in the youngest way that you possibly can, and everything that you can do from a lifestyle perspective and a supplement perspective to support aging gracefully. So before we jump into the topic today, I want to share something that a lot of people don't know about Dr. Mercola, is that every product that you buy from Marlene's, that is a Dr. Mercola product, 25% of all the net proceeds of that sale goes back to advocacy. That's been the mission for Dr. Mercola since the beginning, to really educate the general public. And this is not just a United States thing. This is a high level of education, goes internationally as well. So Dr. Mercola is always teaching about things like the non-GMO support, the right to know genetically engineered labeling, anti-fluoridation, the elimination of mercury, and literally the list goes on. So when you're buying the product, you're not only doing something to help yourself and support your overall health, and in today's topic, supporting aging gracefully, you're really supporting education across the world. So I always like to bring that up. And so a little bit about me. So as Elizabeth had shared, my name is Glen Depke. I'm the national educator for Dr. Mercola Premium Products. I am a traditional naturopath. I've been in private practice since 2001. So, gosh, we're coming up on 23 years now. And sometimes I think, where has the time gone, right? And also some other things with Dr. Mercola that sometimes people aren't aware of. I used to work with Dr. Mercola in his clinic in Illinois. I currently live in Southern California, and I used to play roles. I was initially hired as a part-time on nutrition team. I relatively quickly became the chief nutritionist. I played a role on the EFT team. I eventually became wellness director, and I even played an early role in product and program development. So I wore a lot of hats in the clinic. And then I moved to California, disconnected from the company for about 7 years. And then for about the last 6 to 7 years, I've been educating for Dr. Mercola, and it's a huge passion of mine because when I'm just working in I love working with my clients one-on-one, and there's a limitation because in a certain period of time, I can really only help one person. So when I do these type of events, as we are with Marlene's, and this over time will probably reach hundreds of people, and then everybody who this reaches, you share this information with others. So it's exponential how much more you can help when you do this on this level. So that's why I'm always so passionate about helping on this level with Marlene's. Now, today we're going to be really talking about supporting healthy aging. And we're going to talk about fundamentals of health. We're going to talk about the really key component to aging gracefully, which ties into the combination of brain and mitochondria support. We're going to talk about the very, very important aspect of metabolic support and also immune support. And I'm going to talk about immune support in a very different way, because when most people think about immunity, you just think about that being whether you get sick or not. Yet I'm going to help you understand on a deeper level how the immunity, your immune system plays a role in you aging as gracefully and as youthfully as possible. So the first thing I want to talk about here is with your fundamentals of health, because this is where I always start. Because if you don't take care of the simple things in your life, you can't expect the other things to have a significant benefit for you. It's always like to, and as you can see with the picture here, my analogy for building your health, I compare building your health to building a house. Now, if you're building a house, you would need fundamentals. You would need things like lumber, bricks, drywall, roofing, nails, concrete, and such to build a house. To build your health, you also have fundamentals. So that includes the air you breathe, which is getting adequate and optimal levels of oxygen to the cells in your body. It's the water you drink, which is tied into properly hydrating every cell in your body. It's proper nutrition, which rich nutrition to me is a three-prong level. Is number one, it's enhancing what's going on from a digestive perspective, because we've all heard it 1,000 times, if not once, that you are what you eat. I'm usually the first person to always share that that's a lie every time you've heard it. You're not what you eat, you're what you absorb and you assimilate. I've seen plenty of people in my practice who have really high levels of nutritional integrity that are still malnourished because they simply can't break down, absorb, and assimilate the nutrients properly. So that's the first part of nutrition. The second part of nutrition is tied into food sensitivity. There's something that a lot of people don't know. It's really approximately 86% of everybody who has a food sensitivity is asymptomatic. So what that means is you could eat a food that you're sensitive to and have no direct correlation in recognizing that you have a sensitivity. Yet, even though it could still be driving this low-level inflammatory response in your gastrointestinal system, and because there are inflammatory receptors throughout your body, eventually that low-level inflammatory response can become a chronic systemic inflammatory response in your body. And heck, if you're wondering what chronic inflammation causes and how this could actually hinder aging gracefully and aging in the most youthful way possible, heck, just go on your favorite browser and type in, what does chronic inflammation cause? And you'll pretty much find every chronic disease state known to man. So food sensitivity is a second part of nutrition that's important to recognize. And remember, it's only about 14% of the people who actually know that they're sensitive to a food. So testing becomes really a necessity on that level. And then third part of nutrition is this ties into what Hippocrates told us about 2,700 years ago. And that's that one man's food is another man's poison. Not everybody should be a vegan or vegetarian. Not everybody should be on the Atkins diet. Not everybody should be doing paleo or keto in the same way. We're all different. We're all different from a genetic perspective. We all have different backgrounds and heritage. We live in different environments. We have different stress levels. We have different functional health issues or not. When there's so many different factors that tie into what we need to feed our body. So there's some keys that we're going to talk about today that will be important in regard to overall metabolism, that you want to eat in a way that keeps your blood sugar normalized and helps support a really healthy insulin level as well. I know after that, it's sleep. it's healthy sleeping habits. And this is another area where so many people are missing the boat from this perspective. And I'm going to define what a healthy sleeping habit is. So optimally, we would all wake up close to when the sun comes up in the morning. And then we would subtract approximately 8 hours from that time. That would be the time to go to bed. Now, for most times of the year, that means about 8 hours of sleep. Some people can get away with a little bit less, and some people actually need a little bit more. And really, the key is you really want to, approximately that 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Time frame, usually needing a little bit more sleep in the winter months and a little less sleep in the summer months, which is, you know, honestly, it correlates also with sun exposure, right? Yeah, because our true sleep habits are directed by circadian rhythms, which are influenced by hormones, which are influenced by the sun coming up and the sun going down, and also the magnetic shift in the earth as the earth rotates on its axis. So we have to have proper sleep. And to recognize one other defining definition with proper sleep is laying your head down, falling asleep relatively quickly, staying asleep throughout the evening. Maybe you might get up once to use the restroom, and then actually being able to fall asleep again very quickly after that. And then when you wake up, you would feel energized when you wake up. That would say that you're having a good, healthy sleep pattern. So that's another key fundamental. And then also healthy movement. To recognize that there's three different levels at which I discuss movement. First off, it's moving your body. I want you to understand all of our bodies are designed to move. If you sit in front of a computer all day or sit at a desk, you have to make sure that at different times of the day that you can actually incorporate movement. Maybe on lunch you go for a 20-minute walk with an exaggerated arm swing. Maybe at some point during the week you go to the gym or incorporate more walks into your sitting at the desk time of the day. And the whole key with movement, it's not about like building a bigger bicep or impacting that cardiovascular activity. It's the whole basic aspect of movement is proper movement stimulates the autonomic nervous system, which is the master regulator of everything. So you really want to make sure that you're moving on a daily basis. And the other two aspects of movement, I'm not a chiropractor, but I definitely support quality chiropractic care because you want your vertebrae to be in alignment and to be able to move freely, which is a key component to optimal health. And then the other part of movement is bowel movements. You really, there's so many people who think that, oh, I have a bowel movement every morning like clockwork. Considering that to be healthy, well, I still consider that constipation. You really want to achieve at least 2 healthy bowel movements per day, with your most significant primary bowel movement in the morning and a secondary bowel movement in the late afternoon or early evening as a minimum achievement. So all the three of those play a big role in just overall movement within the body, obviously from different levels. And then also proper sun exposure. We've been told for what, 35 years now, like stay out of the sun, it's evil, it's terrible. Only go out with sunscreen, cover your whole body. Yep, the simple reality is we need a healthy sun exposure on a consistent basis. And why this is so important, it's not, most people think about sun exposure and the conversion into vitamin D, which is important, yet it still plays a role in overall metabolism. It affects what's going on hormonally. It's really something that's important. But the key, though, is to get a healthy sun exposure, and I'll define that as being out in the sun when possible between 11:30 and 1:30, really exposing about half of the amount of skin on your body, unprotected, and only long enough to, based on your skin tone, to be out in the sun without getting sun damage, without getting sunburn. So that's the big key is to, like somebody with a very pale complexion might only need 10 minutes of sun exposure to get everything they need, whereas somebody with a much darker complexion may need 45 minutes to get the same benefit as the person with the pale skin that can get all their benefits in 10 minutes. So remember, the key is to also make sure that it's a healthy sun exposure. You're never getting overexposed to the sun. And the last thing, which is tied into really the energetics of the body. And we can see here with the house that we have this picture of. Well, think of it this way. If you build a great big beautiful house and you build that house on a crumble foundation, what happens to the house? The house still falls down. So where I have the word energy there, that is not energy to pick up a weight or go for a run. That's energy that we would consider more vibrational, emotional, or spiritual energy. So this could be, the mental and emotional stress that you're dealing with. This could be the level of potential suppressed emotions that you're dealing with. So it's really important to learn healthy ways of perceiving stress, healthy ways of releasing suppressed emotions. And that's why, back in the day with Dr. Mercola, I did play a significant role on the EFT team for a number of years. And Dr. Mercola has always been a big proponent of EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, which is a technique for you to actually really kind of shift and support a healthy mental and emotional response, and a tool to potentially use to support releasing emotional suppression from your past. So I want you to really recognize that, I'm going to get into talking about supplements shortly. And supplements are, just as the word says, it is a supplement to doing all the things that you need to do with your fundamentals of health first. Because the simple reality, if you take a bunch of supplements, but you breathe short and shallow all the time, you're dehydrated, your nutrition is bad, your digestion is bad, you sleep poorly, you don't move your body, you don't ever get a sun exposure, and you're a walking stress ball, the supplements aren't going to have a huge impact for you. So you've got to get those simple things first, and then allow the supplements to support you on a much deeper level beyond that. So this is always a big, important key first. So with the supplement support, the first thing I want to talk about is with the brain. Now, why it's so important to think about the brain from an aging gracefully standpoint is that, as we age, we're going to lose neurons in the brain. And when we can actually maintain health and homeostasis or balance in the brain, we can actually have a positive effect on the brain still being able to maintain connections. There's little things called dendrites that reach out between neurons. So when one neuron is removed from this overall cascade of what's going on with your brain and neurological function, a healthy brain will create those dendrites. Those dendrites are like little fingers that reach out that keep the connection between the neurons, even if one neuron is missing. And so really keeping your brain as healthy and youthful as possible is a big and a huge component to aging gracefully. And this is something that's very near and dear to my heart because, I had there's a significant amount of neurodegeneration in my family. I had a grandmother who passed with severe dementia. My mother spent the last 13 months of her life living in a hospital bed with my father, feeding her baby food and changing her diapers. And then she died with severe dementia. And I had an older brother that died with ALS. So I, to be very candid, I very selfishly research brain health because I do everything that I can within my power to keep this happy and healthy, regardless of what somebody might say about genetics or you're suspect because all this happened to your family. I really believe that I have a much more significant role that I get to play by focusing on my fundamentals of health and doing the things I need to do to keep my brain healthy. And this is a huge component to aging gracefully. Now, the first part of this tied in with your brain is tied into mitochondria health. Now, a lot of people don't think about mitochondria when they think about the brain because most of the research, most of the information you've probably seen on the internet talks about mitochondria and heart health, which is true. Mitochondria does play a big role with your heart. And it's always interesting with mitochondria is that so many people, when you mention mitochondria, it's almost like everybody can really recite the exact same thing. You say, "Oh yeah, I know the mitochondria; it's the powerhouse of the cell." Well, that's true. Yet it still doesn't go in any depth of explaining why this is so important. So your mitochondria is important for the, number one, it's tied into approximately 97% of your body's energy production. Well, and who doesn't want more energy nowadays, right? So you want to be able to support mitochondria to support energy production. And outside of that, your mitochondria is essential for all the high mitochondria needs in your body. So that includes all of the muscles in your body. It includes your kidney function. It includes your liver function. It includes supporting your heart. And lastly, it includes supporting your brain. So all of these areas that I mentioned are high mitochondria needs of the body. And as we age, most people have less and less mitochondria. The biogenesis of the mitochondria might not be as strong. There might be a missing intrinsic factor where you don't get what you need to the mitochondria based on some digestive issues and intrinsic factor issues. And this is a huge component to keeping your brain healthy and happy. Now, the first thing I'll talk about in this regard is ubiquinol. Something that I take myself personally every day. The ubiquinol with Dr. Mercola it contains a brand name of ubiquinol called Canica. Canica, very simply, is it's a company that actually produces what I would consider the best ubiquinol available in the world we live in, because Canica as a company has a special patented fermentation system. They simply make the most stable form of ubiquinol that I've ever seen in research. Now, with this though, there's one thing that's really important about Dr. Mercola's ubiquinol. You see, because ubiquinol is a very unstable molecule. And when ubiquinol is exposed to oxygen, it actually converts back into its precursor, which is referred to as ubiquinone, or you might know this better as CoQ10. Now, as we age, it's important to have ubiquinol. And here's the reason why, is because when we're younger, when we're, like, so let's say 35 or younger, and we take CoQ10, and we have a healthy intrinsic factor, that intrinsic factor helps to convert the ubiquinone, which is CoQ10, into ubiquinol. And ubiquinol is what the mitochondria needs. Yet for most people, once we hit the age around 35, we start to lose that intrinsic factor. So that's why it's so important, especially after about the age of 35. If you've already been taking CoQ10, at about that age, you want to shift to the use of ubiquinol. Now, the other thing that's very, very important about Dr. Mercola's ubiquinol, because the simple fact is we're not the only company who uses Canica. I would even say that all the quality companies out there that are selling ubiquinol are pretty much all using the same form of ubiquinol from Canica. And there's one big difference, though, with Dr. Mercola's. You see, because our ubiquinol comes packed in a hard shell capsule called a Lee cap, as compared to other ubiquinols are typically sold in a soft gel. Now, the problem with the soft gel is soft gels, when you look at them under a microscope, they have microscopic cracks in them. So what that means is oxygen can work its way through the microscopic cracks to reach the internal ingredients. Now, remember I'd mentioned if ubiquinol, because ubiquinol is an unstable molecule, and when exposed to oxygen, it converts back into ubiquinone, which is CoQ10. So you want to be sure when you're taking ubiquinol that it stays as the form of ubiquinol from the time you purchase it until the time you've used the last capsule in the bottle. And that's very important to have that protected in the Lee cap, because when you look at the Lee cap underneath the microscope, it does not have the microscopic cracks that the soft gels do. So that's a very key component overall. And then also supporting mitochondria is the berberine and micro-PQQ. You see this, I'm going to talk about a different berberine product tied into metabolism a little bit later within today's discussion. Yeah, but this combination of, and this form of berberine with the micro-PQQ, while it does encourage things like fat burning, it does promote a healthier insulin, leptin, and adaptive pectin function for healthy metabolism. And it does help support blood sugar levels already in a normal range and healthy insulin sensitivity. This form of berberine with the micro-PQQ together is a great support for the mitochondria. I always like to put things in easy ways to understand. When you think of the form of berberine that's in the berberine and micro PQQ, it's almost like a garbage truck at the mitochondria level. It helps to support the removal of garbage, debris, or trash in the mitochondria, and to carry it out of the body. And the micro PQQ is almost like having a campfire in front of you and spraying a little bit of lighter fluid on it. If you did that on a campfire, the fire would become larger, it would change color, would change intensity, heat, and energy would all be changed. And that's what the berberine and the micro PQQ has, that supportive factor for the overall mitochondria. So this combination between the ubiquinol and the berberine and the micro PQQ, I take a berberine and micro PQQ every morning, and I take a 200 milligram capsule of ubiquinol with generally my first or second meal of the day every day. Yeah, because as I said, I'm committed to keeping this happy and healthy. And of course, I still enjoy all the other benefits of helping also support my heart, supporting my liver, supporting my kidneys, supporting my muscular system, and supporting energy every day. And then more specifically with brain and cognitive support, one of the things that which is to me a no-brainer, pun intended, is the organic fermented beets. Now, why this is so important tied into the brain is because when you take organic fermented beets, this does help support the production of nitric oxide. And see, and the nitric oxide is a gas, and it plays an important role in supporting normal circulatory functions within the cells that line your arteries and really protecting your cell powerhouses or the mitochondria, as I was talking about. And the nitric oxide, it helps to basically dilate the blood vessels, to open up those blood vessels, which then allows a greater volume of blood to flow through your body, providing oxygen and nutrients to your brain and other organs and all the cells in your body. And that healthy blood flow is a significantly important aspect, not only for the whole body, but also specifically for the brain, which is a key component. And the three main reasons why people use organic fermented beets is number one, to just help with blood flow throughout the body. Number two, to actually help with blood flow to the brain, to get oxygen and nutrients to your brain. And number three, there's a lot of people who use it based on their fitness activity. There's a lot of people who take organic fermented beets before they work out because, well, think about it. If you can dilate blood vessels and create more blood flow and support blood flow in your body to move more oxygen and nutrients, you're typically going to have a better workout, maybe sustain that workout even a little bit longer, and support recovery in a better version as well. So the organic fermented beets. And another note to make about this is that beets, the use of beets has been around like since I can remember back in the late 70s in the fitness world where people were drinking beet juice all the time. And the problem with that, though, is if you're drinking beet juice, there's a lot of sugar in beet juice. Now, that goes against everything we're talking about today. A lot of sugar is not anti-aging. A lot of sugar is basically speeding up aging. And on top of that, it's also would have a negative effect on metabolism, and it would actually be a bit of a challenge for immune system function as well. All the things I'm telling you to enhance to age gracefully, sugar would actually have the opposite effect. So when the beets are fermented, during the fermentation process, it eats up the sugar, so you get all the nitric oxide benefits of the beets without the sugar, which is a key component. It's another thing that for myself personally, I take daily as well. And then another important factor for brain health is not just getting your omega-3s. Now, your omega-3 fatty acids are very important for your body overall and very important for your brain. And I always love the keto krill. You see, because the keto krill, you get krill, which is an omega-3 fatty acid. Now, what's fantastic about krill is is both water and fat soluble, because krill naturally contains something known as phospholipids. And phospholipids is what makes it both water and fat soluble. And why this is so important and a key for you is because most other omega-3s are only fat soluble. A lot of people, unfortunately, nowadays have digestive issues. You think of the world we live in, the amount of toxins, the amount of stress we're dealing with. All of those things can actually potentially, well, and throw on top of that our food sources, right? All these things can actually have a negative impact on digestion. So a lot of people struggle with fat soluble nutrients. Well, the krill has, again, both water and fat soluble because of the phospholipids. And krill also naturally contains a really potent antioxidant called astaxanthin, which is one of the rare antioxidants that actually crosses your blood-brain barrier, which obviously would be important for your brain and cognitive function. Now, on top of that, why I love the keto krill so much is because it's not just the krill. It also contains 3 different nootropics, which are all supportive for brain and cognitive function. And we also put some caprylic 8 MCT oil, which then helps support the movement of all these nutrients to the brain. And we add a little bit more phospholipids to even enhance and support the digestibility of this. So the keto krill is something that, again, I'm sharing a lot of the things that I do because I'm focused on keeping this happy and healthy the rest of my life. So the keto krill is something I take 2 of those every day with a meal as well. And another thing that's great for your brain and the whole of your body is H2, or molecular hydrogen. You see, hydrogen is the smallest element known to man. So hydrogen can get everywhere. Like a lot of times when I'm talking about nutrient uptake, I'm talking about something being intracellular, being able to get into the cell, because that's what you need for nutrients to be a benefit for you. Yet H2 goes far beyond that. Molecular hydrogen not only gets across the cell membrane into the cell, it easily gets into the mitochondria, it can get into the nucleus of the cell, it very easily crosses the blood-brain barrier. And this is has the activity of a very potent antioxidant, which is very important. And what's also fantastic with the form of the molecular hydrogen that Dr. Mercola offers, it generates about 8 parts per million of molecular hydrogen, compared to the old forms of molecular hydrogen, which would only give 1 to 2 parts per million. So it actually has a much more significant buildup of the hydrogen to support this antioxidant activity to get really everywhere into your body, and especially the key of this actually getting into your brain. And this is something, when I take my morning supplements, I take a glass of about 18 ounces of water. I drop a molecular hydrogen tablet in there. While that tablet is dissolving in the water, I put together all my morning supplements in a little pile. And once that hydrogen tablet dissolves, that's the peak time to actually consume that. And I drink that 1 glass of water with all my morning supplements. And it is a fantastic way to start my day, for all the different benefits of what I'm looking to achieve. And this could be the same benefit for you as well. And then metabolic support. This is so important and a huge problem for our culture. It's recognized that almost 9 out of 10 adult Americans are metabolically inflexible. Let me say that again. Almost 9 out of 10 adult Americans are metabolically inflexible. The real number is 8.8. So it's 8.8 out of 10 people really have poor metabolism, which can mean a lot of different things. It could mean, to an extreme, you might already be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, or maybe you've been told that you have insulin resistance, or maybe you're overproducing insulin to maintain even a healthy glucose level. That's even something I can remember years ago. This goes back to 2004 when I first started working with Dr. Mercola. I can remember sitting in his office with him one day, and we were going over some different components of blood work. And I asked him what I thought at that time was a random question, but it really stuck with me, on a deep level. And the question I asked him, I said, all these markers in blood work, what's the one thing that you feel is really most important? He had a really quick response for me. And this goes back to 2004, so almost 20 years ago. And he basically said, insulin. He says having low insulin is one of the overall best predictors of health and even longevity. And really, I believe that to be just as true today. So it's not only having a glucose level that's optimal, but also having an insulin level that's optimal. And the other component of what metabolic inflexibility could be, it could just be simply that you've lost the ability to flip the switch to go between burning carbs for fuel and burning fat for fuel. And if you're wondering if that's you, this is an easy way to really pay attention. For if you're really stuck in only burning carbs for fuel, about 3 hours after you eat, you're going to start to crash and burn. You're going to start to lose energy physically, mentally, and emotionally, and you're going to need more food. Yet if you're metabolically flexible and you can flip that switch, as soon as you don't have the carbs to burn, your body will just flip that switch and you'll start breaking down fat for fuel, and that will actually still maintain a high level of energy physically, mentally, and emotionally. So those are all the key components, and you really want to achieve being that 1.2 out of 10 people, because when you actually have healthy metabolism, when you're supporting a healthy glucose and a healthy insulin sensitivity, that actually is the great opportunity for not only enhancing even the best brain health, but also enhancing your aging gracefully. Now, a couple things I'll talk about this with this. So number one is the biothin berberine with chromium. Right now, this combination is not new. Berberine and chromium have been used for probably decades for helping to support healthy metabolism. But some things that are very different with this is, number one, the berberine in this formula is what's called a phytosome form of berberine. So what that means, it's optimizing absorption by tenfold. Get that, tenfold over a non-phytosome berberine. Even though you might be taking the same dose, you're probably going to get 10 times the benefit of taking a phytosome form. Now, on top of that, we do include chromium in this as well. Now, the chromium, with some things that are different, is that the typical form of chromium used by most companies is picolinate. And picolinate has, through research that I've read, picolinate has a low absorption rate and can have some irritating effects on some people's digestive function and other health aspects. So we do not use picolinate. We use polynicotinate. And polynicotinate, through all the research I've read, actually has a much higher absorption aspect than the other form of chromium, and does not create that same level of potential irritation to the body. Now, on top of that, it's also recognized that to optimize the absorption of chromium, you also need a little bit of niacin. So this contains a niacin, which is a vitamin B3 that's bound with the chromium, from this chromium polynicotinate, to really enhance that even so much further. And I've had, even in my practice, I've had clients that have used berberine and chromium in a combination for some time in the past, and just empirically, I've recognized a significant supportive benefit when they switch to the berberine in the phytosome form with the chromium in the polynicotinate form bound with the niacin, which is a key component. So that is something that is really important for a healthy metabolism. And another great thing that you can use for metabolism is a biodynamic organic fermented cinnamon, which is a mouthful. And this is, and even understand, a lot of people don't know what biodynamic is. A lot of people are, most people are familiar with organic, but biodynamic is like multiple steps beyond organic, because biodynamic means that to put it in a basic understanding, it means that there's going to be involved in crop rotation. There's going to be the farm will actually allow the soil to regenerate its nutrients. And it's really about the whole ecosystem of the farm to create the best soil, so the best soil can grow the best nutrients. This is a big problem in our society, because most farming nowadays does not really honor biodynamic farming, and that's why we have so many, we have so much nutrient, basically nutrient dead soil that we're growing foods in, and that's going to affect the nutrients in the actual food itself. So this is biodynamic, it's organic, it's fermented. And whenever you ferment something, like 3 keys to fermentation is number one, you help its supportive values. Number two, you typically make it easier to absorb and assimilate. And number three, anything fermented is typically a benefit for most people's digestive system. So there's all these different benefits of fermentation, and the cinnamon in this is a true cinnamon. This is a really important thing, because the cinnamon, a lot of the cinnamon is known as a Chinese cinnamon or a cassia cinnamon. This is a true Ceylon cinnamon. and the cassia cinnamon, which is the Chinese cinnamon that is often used in products, it has undesirable levels of something called coumarin. And coumarin is a powerful anticoagulant with potential carcinogenic and toxic properties. Whereas the Ceylon cinnamon that is used in this product has been shown to contain almost undetectable levels of that coumarin. So it really makes this a much better option from a cinnamon perspective. And the biggest thing, because again, we're talking about this from the perspective of metabolism, and cinnamon is something that's been used for not only years and decades, but generations in helping to support healthy metabolism, helping support healthy glucose metabolism throughout the body as we're going through our day. So another big key component. And another thing you could do to really help with, and this kind of ties into a bit of what's going on with glucose as well as with your brain, and it's a biothin ketone energy MCT oil. Because by burning high quality fats as your primary source of fuel instead of glucose from carbohydrates, this actually helps with the production of ketones in your body. And if you're not aware of what ketones are little fat droplets that are produced in your liver that your body can burn for fuel. Yeah, so when you burn carbs for fuel, as compared to fat, burning fat will produce about 6 times more energy than burning carbs, and it's a cleaner energy. Yeah, so because of the rapid conversion to energy, the MCTs are really an ideal way to actually, create the satisfaction in your body and the energy that you're looking for. And what's important with the ketone energy, this is 100% a caprylic 8 MCT. So a lot of MCT oils are like 50-50 combinations of caprylic 8 and caprylic 10s, and some contain very little 8, and some will even just have a coconut oil and not even have the MCT specifically. So this goes a long way in helping with more specifically what's going on from a brain and a fat burning perspective. And also, something that's been around for generations as well is apple cider vinegar. So this is an organic apple cider vinegar with a combination of both ginger and turmeric. And really what's awesome about apple cider is that it really helps to prevent the complete digestion of complex carbohydrates. So what happens then is it reduces the absorption of carbs as sugars, and the blood sugar spike will typically not peak as it would have without that. And also another really major component of this is when you're using the biothin apple cider vinegar with the ginger and turmeric, it helps to boost what's known as your AMPK pathway. So your AMPK pathway is that metabolic master switch that regulates your metabolism and increases fat burning. So remember what I mentioned earlier, when you don't have carbs to burn, you want to be able to flip that switch so you can burn fat for fuel. And what are the other advantages of burning fat for fuel? If you're burning fat, well, then the fat is actually being utilized, right? And most people would enjoy that. So studies do really show that the apple cider vinegar may support healthy digestion, healthy mitochondrial health, and aid in balancing your body's pH, beside for what we're talking about with the AMPK pathway and having a positive effect on preventing the complete digestion of complex carbohydrates. And this is something that the other thing I always like to share with apple cider vinegar, it is best to put it in a glass of water rather than just just taking it straight with a spoon. And because the apple cider vinegar, if it's just with a spoon, can have a level of irritation to the digestive system. So just put in a glass of water, enjoy that glass of water. And there's 3 flavors. There's a sweet, there's an habanero, and there's a blueberry. And I will say, like, I love the habanero. And it's hot, it's spicy. So if you don't like spicy food, go for the blueberry or the sweet flavor. And then immunity. This is a big thing. I want you to understand that immunity is not just whether you get sick or not. And immunity is really also about supporting daily maintenance and repair of your body. This is a key component. It's something that a lot of people are missing. And there's just some simple, easy things that you can do to support your immune system. And these things have been talked about since in the 2020, for the last almost 4 years now. We've been talking a lot about immunity. And some of the key components is, of course, it starts with vitamin C. Vitamin C is a antioxidant that has a significant level of immune support as well. And what's awesome about the liposomal vitamin C is because the way this is manufactured, we use a combination of the active ingredient of the vitamin C along with an MCT oil and a sunflower lecithin. This all gets mixed together, spun in a particular way, and then put into this lead cap. And then once you ingest this and this breaks down, this lead cap opens rapidly and completely in the digestive system, exposed to the liquid environment in your GI, your body takes that liquid environment and the materials of the MCT and the sunflower lecithin, and it manufactures a liposome. That liposome engulfs the vitamin C, and then it makes it easier for the vitamin C to go through the mucosal lining of the small intestines to get into the blood. And when it gets near the cell, instead of like if it was an active ingredient without a liposome, it would have a tough time getting through the cell membrane. It would take a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of time and energy and effort. Yeah, but if it's engulfed by the liposome, the structure of the liposome is almost identical to the structure of the cell membrane. So instead of doing this to try to get through the cell membrane, as soon as it gets near the cell, it's just taken right in. And it's a very powerful way to get into your regular vitamin C to really support not only antioxidants but support immunity. And then very important is with immunity is it's really supporting your vitamin D3 levels. And here was what's funny too is vitamin D isn't even a vitamin; it's a hormone, and it plays a significant role in supporting a healthy immune system. And the liposomal vitamin D3 has the same benefits of what we talked about with the vitamin C. Has that liposomal technology to encase the vitamin D to really enhance its ability to get across the cell membrane. And and this is something that unfortunately a lot of people are vitamin D deficient. And because a lot of people aren't getting out in the sun on a regular basis, they're not getting out between 11:30 and 1:30. They're not exposing half of their skin or more to the sun, and they're not doing it unprotected. So there are a significant amount of people that have deficiencies in vitamin D. And heck, even I live in Southern California. I have sunshine all year round, and I can get sun probably almost every day of the year. There's very few days I can't get sun. Yet at the times of the year, as we get into the winter months here, as we get into December, January, February, where the sun sits in the sky, you don't have that same effect even for myself. So I take vitamin D3, the liposomal D3 throughout those months because I know I still need it. And the big question is to like you can even ask yourself, like based on a need for vitamin D3, is do you get no sun every day? Now, if you answer yes to that, then do you get out between 11:30 and 1:30? If you answer yes to that, do you expose at least half of your skin unprotected? And if there's a no to any of those, there is a pretty strong likelihood that some vitamin D support would be in order for you. And lastly, with this, something that Marlene's carries, which is a significant benefit, especially if you're looking to get a lot of nutrients and do a little cost cutting as well. There's also something called the vitamin C pack. And the vitamin C pack contains vitamin C. Now, it's not the vitamin C and vitamin D on these are not in the liposomal forms, but the vitamin C is in an effervescent powder, the vitamin D, and then also zinc. These are three key components to supporting a healthy immune system. And what's great about the C pack, you just simply open this up. When I use the C packs, I like them for traveling because they're very convenient. So I'll take something, I'll take a glass with ice and water, and I'll put the C pack in there. I'll shake it up, and then I'll strain the water, out from the ice, and then I get to enjoy the combination of vitamin C, zinc, and vitamin D all together in one simple, convenient, easy capsule. Now that actually has a pretty darn good taste as well. So that's another great way of helping support what's going on from an immune perspective. So, just a little bit of a review before we finish up today. And when we're talking about aging gracefully, and we want to think about this from the perspective of, number one, you're not your linear age. You're your metabolic age, and you actually have a lot of control over what your metabolic age actually is. The first thing you always have to do is you have to take care of your simple fundamentals of health. Remember, you can't forget your fundamentals and think your supplements are going to make up for that. You have to get a focus on your fundamentals. And then you want to support mitochondria, you want to support brain and cognitive function, you want to support proper metabolism, and you want to support your immunity. And if you can actually achieve all of those, there's a darn good chance you're going to age gracefully. And as I said at the beginning, it's something that is very important to me. Yeah, because in 2024, when next year comes, I'm going to be turning 60, and I love aging gracefully. Yeah. So with that, is if there's any questions from any that's on live, or I don't know if Elizabeth, if you can see any questions that come up based on the Facebook feed.
Thank you so much, Dr. Depke.
No, you're welcome.
Let me check here. Hold on just a moment.
And I'll check the chat too. Yeah, the chat looks clear.
All right. I don't see any
Okay.
questions
Right. Awesome.
this time, but
Yeah.
super appreciate your amazing
Yeah.
presentation as always. I always
Oh,
get so inspired.
you're welcome. And this is a great time for this too, Elizabeth. I love the subject line that we had for today because we're going into the bulk of the holiday season. This is where a lot of people get really off track with their brain and their metabolism and their immunity. Think of the high stress levels, the lack of sleep, the overconsumption of alcohol, usually eating foods with like a lot of carbohydrates in them, and a lot of challenges through the holidays. So if we could just actually even change things up a little bit, it goes a long way into really helping us catapult into 2024 in a much healthier place. And then take that beginning of 2024 and really get your focus on aging as gracefully and as youthfully as possible. So that's
Beautifully
that's
said.
what I've got.
Yeah, no, that's great because, yeah, setting yourself up for success before the New Year's resolutions is the best way to do it for sure.
100%. All right, Elizabeth. Well, thank you so much. You're always so awesome. Appreciate you. And I look forward to doing more of these in 2024.
Yes, I'm very excited as well. And thank you everyone who's tuning in who tune in live with us here in the meeting on Facebook and also later on YouTube. Have a wonderful holiday and take good care.
Happy holidays, everybody. Bye-bye.
Happy holidays.
Bye.